Mom had this gift, they've been saying, of making outliers or people that were hidden or unseen feel seen. And so that applied to her family too, but it wasn't without its struggles. And so Mom was a gifted artist, and she was good with words, and she was beautiful as a young person, and that continued through her life. And so she could be a part of the in crowd, but she could also notice these outliers and go and be their friend. So she had that ability to walk in both of those worlds. And so even in this church, she was part of the, who helped decide how the Sunday school programs could be better, and part of that group. But she was also part of the fringe, because they also felt available or special, or that she was part of them. And so all parents want their kids to grow up to be awesome or perfect, and my parents were the same. And I was the firstborn, and so in grade 2, I was 7 years old. I won a contest at this church. Who could invite the most friends to Sunday school? It was a different building then, a cement basement, a wooden white building, or a cement white building. And I brought 22 friends over the period of whatever weeks. The next one, I think, was 7. And that was thanks to Mom's coaching. She did like kids club at home, and she was part of the Sunday school here. And so during Rose here, her husband took me in an airplane ride. I was 7 years old. That was the prize. And there's just so many roots and memories here. But a lot of that involved Mom. But so I loved being a model child until I didn't. And then I went the other way with smoking and drinking, and that wasn't good for them because that conflicted. Partly, of course, they were discouraged because of the harm that would bring me. These lifestyles aren't good for people, but also it wasn't good for them either as pillars in the church. And there was meetings about that. I think sometimes we weren't even invited to those meetings. So that's a conflict. And so this can't happen in our home, etc. I was 17 years old, so I finally quit school and left home. And I went to the Crow's Nest Pass for a couple of years. I would come back occasionally, but to see my friends. But later, my sister doesn't even remember me really spending time with Mom and her. And Dad, I would go see my friends, even though they were cleaning the house for me and making it special. And anyways, I ended up in the Yukon, and I didn't come home for 2 years. So finally, after I came home, after 2 years, 2 more years, so I was 21 by then, but I was smoking cigarettes and living a worldly lifestyle. That wasn't okay with their lifestyle, but they decided that would be okay for me. So they said, "Do you smoke?" And of course they knew I smoked. And so they said, "You can smoke at our kitchen table." They put an ashtray on the table during supper time. It just seems so weird now because nobody does that. But back in those days, any restaurant, any airplane, everybody. But anyway, so they put the ashtray on the table. I never did smoke in the house, but I did smoke in the driveway. But that was an example of living in both worlds. You can be a part of something, and you can include others. And because you include them doesn't mean you endorse everything they do. That just means you love God by loving people. And it's a slippery slope because if you love those people, you could become like them. Jesus said, "I'll send you out like sheep among the wolves." It's a risky land. You can see Solomon went off the rails with that. But there is a place of walking with Jesus if you spend enough time with him. Jesus himself was able to model this perfectly. So I see Mom growing in that area. So then I went back up to the Yukon, and I never remembered any correction about that, but God was certainly correcting me. So recently, one of our daughters was caring for Mom right at the end of her life there, and just spending some extra time, and she saw Mom's prayer journal. And there's my brother's name and my sister's name, but my name wasn't there in the list there. And she said, "Well, where's Dad's name?" She said, "In the early years I prayed so much for your dad. I'm just trying to balance it out a bit." So there's other things going on besides the ashtray on the table.